Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today we're going to be talking about the Pirate Archetype from the Advanced Player's Guide. This archetype is perfect for nautical campaigns and represents all kinds of chaotic sailors, not just the type that will rob you for everything that you're worth. Privateers and other sorts of legally encouraged seafarers are also represented here, so don't decide to not take this just because you have a very stereotypical assumption of pirates. Without further ado, let's just start going over it. The pirate dedication is a bit unusual. You can take it at level 2 if you're trained in intimidation, and once you do, you become trained in sailing lore, or if you already were trained in sailing lore, you become an expert. Also, you can ignore the effects of difficult terrain or uneven ground that is specifically caused by how a ship is moving. So if you're in rough waters, you don't actually get knocked off balance by how it does because you've got your sea legs. Also, you gain access to the boarding assault action. For 2 actions, you can then attempt to stride twice, or attempt an acrobatics check to swing on a rope for up to twice your normal speed. If you boarded or disembarked a boat or similar vehicle during your movement, you can then make a melee strike against someone who you were passing along the way, and this melee strike also deals 1 additional weapon damage die. The benefits of this dedication are obviously highly situational, but if you're taking the pirate dedication, you're most likely already in a campaign where these sorts of situations are going to be coming up naturally. If you're not going to be on a ship very often, this dedication and this whole archetype aren't going to be nearly as useful for you. Also, as an interesting side note, it's specifically mentioned in the rules that succeeding on the acrobatics check as part of boarding assault would actually give a swashbuckler panache, which is kind of a weird sort of little side note to put in there. What ultimately comes down to with this feat is that if your campaign is on a boat and your GM likes to add in difficult terrain, this feat is amazing. Sailing lore will really help you out if you're in a nautical campaign. If you aren't on a boat though, then why are you thinking about being a pirate? Pirate weapon training is a simple feat, which essentially just allows for you to use more pirate-like weapons. You become trained in hatchets, rapiers, scimitars, and whips. Also, whenever a class feature improves your weapon proficiency with any weapon, you also improve your weapon proficiency with these weapons. This feat isn't remotely flashy, and it doesn't really actually give very much to most martial characters, as most martial characters are already trained in martial weapons. This feat is incredible though for fighters, as they are the exception. They can use this feat to get scaling proficiency with weapons outside of their favorite weapon group, so let's say a fighter chooses to become a master with bows at level 5. If they have this feat, they're also going to be a master with hatchets, rapiers, scimitars, and whips, which allows for them to have both a ranged option and a melee option. Rope Runner is a highly situational skill feat that may or may not be useful depending on your campaign, which, as you can probably tell, is a bit of a running theme for this archetype. You have to be trained in both acrobatics and athletics to be able to take it, but you're now so used to climbing ropes that you get a climb speed of 15 feet, but only whenever you're trying to climb a ship's rigging or other similar types of ropes. I really encourage GMs to be a little bit lenient here on what similar ropes counts as. While that certainly is great on ships, you can also turn any successful athletics checks to climb a rope or acrobatics checks to balance on ropes into critical successes. The important part to notice here is that these ropes and these checks don't have to be on ship rigging, but just any time that you're climbing or balancing on a rope. Considering how often climbing on a rope can really happen in adventuring, like if you're climbing up a cliff, why don't you just throw up a grapple hook and then climb up a rope instead of just trying to free climb a cliff? It's actually pretty good. Additionally, while climbing or balancing on a rope specifically, you are no longer flat-footed. In its entirety, this feat is alright if you're frequently on the deck of a ship, but otherwise it's a bit too situational in my eyes, even for a skill feat, which is obviously a bit more inclined to be situational. Walk the Plank is legitimately the feat that made me choose to actually make this video, and it is what saved this archetype from being a little bit underwhelming in my eyes. It's legitimately hilarious. For 2 actions, you can frighten someone so bad that they move where you want them to. While this is traditionally to make someone walk a plank, it doesn't always have to be. For 2 actions, you demoralize someone, though this does now have the incapacitation trait, including the actual effects of the demoralize normally, so this is not nearly as good to use against people who are above your level. In addition to the normal effects of the demoralize, you can force the target to stride up to their speed as part of the action. You can't force them to move into any harmful space though, or to even move into one where they would provoke any reactions. Still though, this is incredibly powerful, as forcing someone to run away can really inconvenience them. Unfortunately, as you're making them move their speed, they will just be able to spend an action to run back, because that's the same distance, but it is still incredibly useful. Well, also, you know how I said that you can't force them to do anything harmful to themselves? Well, if you critically succeed, you can make them walk literally anywhere, including off of cliffs, into prismatic walls, into walls of fire, or just towards your fighter who has an attack of opportunity and is ready and willing to smack them. Any feat that allows you to do silly stuff like that is amazing in my book. Also, the only limiter on this feat is that once you use it, you cannot use it on the exact same person, as they become temporarily immune for 24 hours. Ordering people around has never been so fun. I actually really like this archetype, though I do feel like it needs a little bit more feats to really be able to shine. I really like pirates, and this is a hint, Paizo, please make another pirate AP, but I would love a supplement that would add more feats to this archetype and give it a bit more substance to it. I would have really loved a feat that gave you a bit, like a resistance to poison, let's say, due to how much you drink, or maybe a feat that gave you a familiar so you could have a parrot on your shoulder. Regardless, I feel like this is the picture-perfect example of an archetype to allow your entire party to get access to as part of running a nautical campaign. It's not too powerful, and it certainly allows for people to live up to the fantasy of being an actual pirate. After all, what are normal adventurers if not pirates without a ship? Thanks for watching. I wasn't really sure what topic to cover for this video until I saw Walk the Plank, and then I knew I had to cover the pirate archetype as soon as I could. What are your actual thoughts on it? I know that pirates are a super wide concept that you can really represent with all different types of class feats and spells, and just the way that Pathfinder 2e works, it makes character concepts super versatile, but I'm still surprised to see that such a popular fantasy and concept for a character, that the archetype for it only has 4 feats. Regardless, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.